be discussing the concept of Danda Niti as elaborated in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata. The objective of today's lecture is to give you an insight and understanding of the concept of Danda, the Dand as the basis of Raj Dharma, and how Dand Niti can be considered to be a science of governance. For the convenience of understanding, the entire discussion has been divided into a number of segments. We would start by giving you a brief insight into the text, then we would move on to the concept of Dand, then we would try to analyze Dand Niti as a part of Raj Dharma, and finally we would focus on the various connotations of Dand. Now, coming to the text, Mahabharata. We all know that it is the longest written epic poem by Vyasa, consisting of 18 parvas. It is a treatise on life, politics, statecraft, ethics, morality, governance, and religion. The main theme of the epic is the rivalry between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, which culminated in the great battle of Kurukshetra. The epic is in verse form and it is often considered to be a manual of governance. It is also called Shato Sahasra Samahita because it comprises of 100,000 verses. Out of the 18 parvas, the 12th parva is essentially significant for us because this is the parva which actually provides a glimpse as well as ideas on statecraft. The 13th parva also focuses on discourse of discipline, which is the Anushasana Parva. The political precepts and principles contained in the Shanti Parva is essentially the result of a discourse between Yudhishthir and Bhishma Pitamaha, who was lying on the bed of arrows awaiting his death in the battlefield. The discourse resulted in the science of politics, essentially focusing on the origin of state, nature of state, Raj Dharma, Dand Niti, welfare state, and the importance of ethics and morality in politics. Let us delve into Shanti Parva and its contents. Shanti Parva comprises of 365 chapters divided into 3 sub-parvas. The first sub-parva is the Raj Anushasana Parva, which comprises of chapters from 1 to 130. The second sub-parva is the Apada Dharma Anushasana Parva, which comprises of chapters from 131 to 173. The third sub-parva is the Moksha Dharma Parva, which comprises of chapters from 174 to 365. It comprises of the behavior, morals, and the way to achieve moksha or liberation. Danda is considered to be the essence of politics and statecraft. In fact, ancient Indian political thought has emphasized on Danda as a significant concept in understanding Hindu political thought. Danda and Dharma are considered to be the twin foundation on which the entire edifice of political thought has been constructed. If you look into the different scriptures, students, Arthashastra, Manusmriti, Sukraniti, Mahabharata, all has a comprehensive discussion on Dand Niti. The nature of Dand Niti, as elaborated in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, is special significance because it enunciates a set of connotations of Danda to be followed by the king. Now, what is Danda Niti? Danda Niti refers to the doctrine of punishment. Dand literally means the rod, the power to punish. It is the law of sanction. According to Bhishma, in the Niti Shastra of Brahma, Danda is as fundamental as a code of life. It includes governance, judicial procedures, methods of settlement of disputes, and ways of controlling the lives of people. Dandaniti also means one of the measures of protection of the state. The 5 measures are Sama, Dama, Danda, Bheda, and Upeksha. Danda is one of the measure of the protection of the state. Let us come to the relationship between Danda and Dharma. In fact, the entire foundation of Hindu political and social life is built on Dharma and Danda. Both coexist. One cannot do without the other. Both are complementary. It is the function of Dand to ensure compliance with Dharma. Through Dharma, Danda is also dependent. In fact, Dharma is the highest power. Raj Dharma, that is the Dharma of the king, exists as the guarantor of the whole social universe. Behind the concept of Dharma lies the fact that men are instinctively evil. Evil is inherent in man, and only the fear of punishment or dand can keep them righteous and maintain dharma. The state which has no sanctions is no state at all. Now, let us look into the state of nature which was in existence before the coming of the state, which was the state of Matsanaya, the big fishes eating the smaller ones. What was the condition of lives of people in the state of nature? Now, in the state of nature, initially people led a blissful and a happy life. But with the emergence of family and property, conditions deteriorated. Anarchy became the order of the day. Now, why did anarchy rise? Because there was no coercion, no sanction, no danda. And since there was no danda, no authority to wield the danda, there was no state. Since there was no state, there was no dharma also, because in the absence of the state, in the absence of the king, who is going to promote dharma? And in such a stateless condition, property was also not protected. So there is a logical relationship between danda and state, which can be said that if there is no danda, there would be no state. If there is no state, there would be no dharma. If there is no state, there would also be no property. It would be a state of utter lawlessness and chaos. Does the absence of danda lead to social crisis? Yes, students, the Shanti Parva focuses on that. It says that the moment danda disappears, governance will be in crisis. And what would be the ramifications? When there is no danda, the Varna order will collapse because nobody is going to follow the rituals and rules of each dharma, of the Varna. People will forget the distinction between what is right and what is wrong, what is dutiful and what is not. People will start killing each other for petty reasons because there is no fear of punishment. Public property would be possessed by mighty people. What would be such a dandaless state? It would be might is right. Since that was the nature of the state of affair before the formation of the state, the Shanti Parva notes that during such a state of dandaless, Brahma requested Vishnu to reveal and re-establish danda on earth. That is the only way to maintain stability and prosperity. Coming to the various connotations of dharma, students. The first connotation, dharma is coercion. Dharma is the science and art of coercion, inflicting punishment. Bhishma says if Danniti is destroyed, the 3 Vedas will disappear and the duties of the 4 Varnas will get absolutely mixed up. Therefore, it is the prime duty of the king to be fully versed with Dandaniti. He should know when and how to use this coercive element of the state. In Indian political thought, it has been stressed that the sinful nature of man legitimizes compulsion. Danda is not adharma, danda is dharma. The state is the sine qua non of existence. It is danda that rules the people. It is danda that protects the people. It is danda that keeps the people on the right path. A state is a state because it can coerce, it can punish, it can compel, and it can restrain. It is this restraining authority which is an important coercive function of the state, students. Now, another connotation of danda is it is dharma. It protects dharma. And when we are saying it protects dharma, we are referring to various forms of dharma. We are referring to ashram dharma, we are referring to varna dharma. In fact, it is the fear of coercion and punishment which keeps people on the right track. It is this fear of punishment which forces each individual in his various stages to perform the functions, whether it's the stage of grihastha or brahmacharya or sannyas. It is this force of punishment which keeps them that, yes, we should be doing our duties. In fact, danda is also said to protect arth. And dharma, arth, kam, all these are controlled by danda. Not only the societal existence, students, danda also protects grains and wealth. It protects our fields. It protects our profession. It protects the well-being of the state. Now, because danda is so necessary, it becomes an instrument to maintain and ensure a decent life for people. And the decent life can only be possible when men do not trespass dharma, but keep to the tune of their own respective life goals. Punishing the wicked, dushta, and fostering the virtuous, shishta, are the main duties of the king. In fact, this concept of dushta and shishta, the wicked and the virtuous, comes in to aid dharma through danda. It is the danda which makes the dushta proper, rightful citizens. What are the repercussions of this fear of danda? What do we do because of this fear? Whether it is a brahmachari, a grihastha, or a vanprasth or sannyas, whatever stage of life you are in, it is the fear that transgression of the expectation of your ashram would result in punishment in the world makes people adhere to their ashram dharma. One who is not afraid of punishment will not perform yagyas. If we are not afraid, we will not fear the world. We will not fear, and we would move on doing what we want. If there is no fear of sins, no one would like to donate money or do charity. Without fear, people will not fulfill one's own promises and duties. So it's fear and fear alone which keeps people in the right track. Let's come to another important connotation of danda, that is punishment. It is very important to understand that Dand Niti connotes various forms of punishment, theories of punishment. The objective of punishment is to keep law and order in the state. But then, dand or punishment should be dispensed after careful consideration. The Shanti Parva advises the king to dispense danda judiciously, neither too lenient nor too harsh. If the king dispenses danda leniently, people will not fear dand. On the other hand, if the king is too strict, then the people will lose faith and trust in the Raj Dharma. Therefore, the king should give punishment as deserved, in proportion to the crime committed. It is the dand which should be the basis of statecraft, the basis of instilling order in society. Now, Dand Niti also covers the various forms of punishment. Before awarding punishment, a number of points should be taken into consideration. What was the motive of the crime? Why did the person commit this crime? What were the circumstances which led to the commission of the crime? What is the exact crime itself? And the capacity of the criminal. Circumstantial evidence, students, was given importance in the Shanti Parva. In fact, the king was supposed to hear both the parties before dispensing justice. Various types of punishments have been advocated as a part of Dand Niti. The first one is Vad Danda, which is capital punishment. Then is Artha Danda, fines, imposition of fines as penalty. Then is Vagdand, which is verbal punishment given to the Brahmins. And then it is moral disapprobation. So, depending on the Varna, the criminal, the nature of the crime, punishment would vary. So, we had a proportionate system of punishment. Now, the Varnashram system also influenced the Dand. Shanti Parva does not prescribe uniform principles of punishment for the people. The principle of punishment not only varies with the degree of violation of the code, but also on the varna in which the criminal is situated. For example, Vagdanda or verbal punishment, public criticism, reprimand. This is given to the Brahmins. This is sufficient to instill fear in them. Kshatriyas have to render suitable service in proportion to the violation of the code. For the Vaishyas, monetary punishment was imposed. Interestingly, for the Shudras, no punishment was imposed because the logic was they were already in service. And they had to continue doing services for the state. Coming to law and justice and sources of law. Students, in Western jurisprudence, we have studied there are multiple sources of law. Customs, religion, commentaries by jurists, legislation, adjudication, precedents, all these are important sources of law in Western jurisprudence. In India also, there are diverse sources of law on which Dand is based. The Mahabharata emphasizes on 4 sources of law: scriptures, customs, sadachar, and uddeshya. Now, all these 4 sources are dependent on dharma. In other words, the dharma is the basis of the legal system as we find it in the Shanti Parva. Now, when we are referring to law as a part of Dand Niti, it includes both civil law, criminal law, as well as social violation of codes. So it is comprehensive to cover all types of crimes. What is the purpose of punishment? Why should the king impose Dand? Now, so far as theories of punishment, we find that there are 4 theories of punishment. One is the deterrent theory, the retributive theory, the reformative theory, and the preventive theory. Now, let us try to find out which theory is prevalent in the Mahabharata. Now, the purpose of these theories may range from treating the criminal as a patient, and they try to reform the criminal, which is the reformative theory, or to impose harsh punishment to deter the criminal for committing any further crime. However, in the Mahabharata, the prescription is the retributive theory. Now, here we should note that the ultimate purpose of imposing punishment is to instill righteousness in the world, is to ensure that people do not perform adharmic acts. Now, it is also the general perception in the Shanti Parva that the punishment should be such that it would not only reform the criminal but should be an example for others not to commit their crime. The state possesses power to restrain, coerce, punish the people according to the needs and circumstances. As I just said that in the Mahabharata we have the retributive theory. What is the retributive theory? The Mahabharata states that to take revenge on him who takes revenge, to retaliate when struck, and to do harm in return from harm, which means you do what has been done to you. In Western theory, it means an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth. So you behave the way the other one has behaved with you. That is retribution. Danda also serves as the regulator of the caste system, students. If Dandaniti is properly applied by the king, the four castes would perform the respective functions, would remain within the respective orders of dharma. When the four castes act in conformity with their dharma, there is security, happiness, and well-being of all. Therefore, one essential aspect of Dandaniti is maintenance of Varnashram dharma. If the king applies Dandaniti in proper ways, people will not follow the path of adharma, and there would be peace, and this peace can be instilled through fear of not transgressing the rules of the Varna. Therefore, Dandaniti will ultimately contribute to happiness and well-being and restore balance in society. Dandaniti also is considered to be the maker of the golden age of rule. It is Danda which creates a golden era. Bhishma says the king is the creator of the age. The Hindu thinkers have divided the entire age of mankind into 4 ages: Kreta, Treta, Dapar, and Kali Yuga. It is said that when the king acts wholly in accordance with Dandaniti, that's the golden age, the Satya Yuga or the Kreta Yuga. When the king acts 3/4 in conformity with the norms and rules of Dandaniti, that's the silver age, the Treta Yuga, comes into existence. The brazen age, that is the Dapar Yuga, comes into existence when the king only adheres to half of Dandaniti and renounces the half. The final one, the age of decline, the Kali Yuga, springs when the king gives up the whole of Dandaniti, oppresses people, takes recourse to ill-advised and unrighteous techniques. There is no danda in Kali Yuga. No danda results in no dharma. And it entails societal disorder and anarchy. Now, based on the various connotations of Dandaniti, let us come to the moot question: can the king violate Dandaniti? Can he go against the principles of Dandaniti? No, he cannot. If the king violates Dandaniti, he loses the moral right to rule the kingdom. If bad times have come, it clearly implies that the king is not ruling with Dandaniti, but he is ruling with Durniti. Good times and bad times are the result of proper or improper application of Dandaniti, and the entire system works on how Dand is applied by the king. Therefore, if the king practices dharma and Dand, it is a dharmic rule. On the other hand, if the king practices adharma with no dand, that is, leads to a rule of adharma itself. Let's come to the relationship between Dandaniti and Rajdharma. The Mahabharata uses these two terms interchangeably, and it says that if Dandaniti perishes, the Vedas will perish, the Dharma will perish, and with that, Rajdharma will also perish. If Rajdharma perishes, the law of the jungle will be the order of the day. Therefore, it is of prime importance to understand that the king should rule and manage his affairs with right danda. It is essential both for war as well as for peace. Danda is also a social principle, students. It is what keeps the people on the path of righteousness. Dand, as a social principle, refers to Vyavhara. It means that the use of Vyavhara leads to complete detachment of the king from his personal likings and dislikings and ensures that he is able to implement Dandaniti through Rajdharma. When the king rules righteously through Danda, there would be balanced use of earth and calm also. Therefore, Dand is essential for the maintenance of the social system. Dand is said to be the divine right of kings. It is a prerogative granted by God or Ishwar to the king to rule the people. Dand, students, is also governance. It is the fundamental law of the land to protect the people from anarchy. It is the fundamental law to ensure that people can live a life and give them freedom from fear. But then, done should not be too harsh or lenient. What is the rationale of Danniti? It is a two-headed sword. It is a terror to the people, plus it is also a corrective to social abuses. It frightens thieves, terrifies enemies, it ensures right submission. In fact, it is a moralizer, a purifier, and a civilizing agent. It is the foundation of a civic life. Let us quickly conclude what we have learned today. Dan Niti is the guarantor of the proper functioning of the state. It is a system of punishment. It sustains the population by controlling the evil tendencies of man, and it is what maintains the well being of the state. Summing up today's discussion, students, we have learned the concept of Dan Niti. We have learned how Dan Niti is coercion. It regulates caste system, it regulates society, it is a part of Raj Dharma, it regulates Varnashram system, and finally, it is the art and craft of governance. Thank you.